Hi everybody. To kickstart week 2, I've decided to record my lesson first so that you can get yourselves prepared for our activities during the class. So just for you guys. Here it is. In this week, we're going to have activities based on the theme called cancel culture, and we build our knowledge and language for discussing that in a more professional manner. Okay. After that, we'll examine differences between summary text and the original text. And then we'll identify the structure of a summary paragraph. Or basically, every paragraph will look pretty much the same. And we'll look into the language features for opening the paragraph, or we call that paragraph opener, topic sentences, you name it. I'm sure you would first ask, why is summary writing so important? It's important because you can't simply copy and paste original text into your own. So that would be plagiarizing, right? So the first point of summarizing would be you are extracting examples and then summarizing and consolidating them in more concise terms. Okay, and then you generalize specific experience into perhaps a phenomenon, a concept, or an idea. And then it's also quite an important process in the academic world, okay, the nerdy world, because you will need summarizing skills for producing terms as a result of grouping similar ideas in a single word or a single term. For example, some of you did raise the term conformity, or the term that we are going to use very soon in this lesson, cancel culture. Okay, and as I said, you can't directly copy and paste. Summarizing or writing summaries would help you repurpose the source text to achieve your purposes, such as for taking notes, gathering similar ideas supporting your view, and so on. And aside from writing for my essays, my term papers, or maybe my dissertations later on, what else can I do with summary writing? Okay, so on the left-hand side on this slide, you've got um, all these parts of your writing tasks that you might need summary skills. For example, when you write longer articles, you will need article abstracts or literature reviews, or maybe when you are writing your introductions and conclusions, you will need certain summary strategies to make things shorter, to rephrase the ideas in more general terms or in shorter terms, as well as topic and concluding sentences. When you are starting your paragraph, you need a general way to introduce what is going on in the paragraph, and so on. And when you work later on, when you enter into the workplace later on, perhaps after writing a business report, you will have to write executive summaries, okay, summarizing the key points of your report. Or maybe when you are writing your CVs and resumes, you will have to summarize your skills and your strengths to help your reader understand you in perhaps just seconds. Pretty much so, aside from writing, you will need the summarizing skills for speaking too. When you are starting a company, for example, when you meet some potential investors, you will have to do a very short elevator pitch. So that's when you are going to summarize all your work, years of preparations, into maybe 10 or 15 seconds of a speech. So I'm sure you've already got Hagi's article on Moodle, and you can read the original article first and take a look at the guidance questions on this slide for analyzing the main purpose of the original text. So there are 5 parts you can look at, 5 main parts you can look at when you are trying to take notes or trying to have a rough summary of the gist, or we call the gist, or the main ideas of the text. For example, the first thing that you look at would be the title. You may ask yourself, is the title straightforward enough to tell you about the article's main point? And if the article has got headings, unfortunately, Hagi's article hasn't got a heading or headings. Okay, but for other articles like journal articles, for textbook articles, you will have headings or subheadings. So ask yourselves, do the headings represent how the topic is broken down into smaller parts? For example, if you're talking about cancel culture, or maybe different genders, so maybe at the top of each section you will have a heading clearly telling you the content of the section with a heading. Okay, and then moving over to the paragraph level, you look at the topic and concluding sentences and ask yourselves, what are the main points summarized in these positions? This is what I always tell my students. If you are reading journal articles, you don't have to read them from top to the end. So the wiser way, I'm not saying that you shouldn't read closely the articles at all, but the wiser way, the smarter way, would be to focus on the general ideas first. So the topic and concluding sentences will give you some good ideas about what's going on in each section, in each paragraph. Or maybe if the articles are shorter, you go over the introduction and conclusion and ask yourselves, for introduction, what is the author's central idea about the subject matter? And for conclusion, what is the author's stance towards the subject matter in general? Because aside from summarizing the key ideas of the essay, the conclusion may also involve the author's final comments, like an opinion, a suggestion, or maybe some predictions into the future. Okay, so take a close look at the writer's stance in the conclusion. Well, this slide simply gives away the answer for a question in the activity sheet, so that you may want to take a look at your activity sheet right now and take some notes. Okay, so what should you summarize from the original text into your summary? So 4 things. So if you still remember what we talked about, the COLD principles about a text, so of course you need to summarize the content. But without specific examples, you are going to remove all the specific examples in the original text, but summarize the key ideas of the text. Okay, so what are the main subject matter and the key points discussed in the text? And in terms of organization, when you read Hagi's article, for example, it is quite loose in terms of organization, although it comes from a very famous magazine. Okay, but you are going to repurpose her article into your very neat, very tidy writing. So you have to group ideas properly. So for organization, each key point should occupy one body paragraph of your summary essay. Okay, again, without any specific examples. And one paragraph, one idea is the key strategy for writing with an effective organization. So for logic, I would look at logic at a more like paragraph level. Okay, the relationships among the sentences, relationships among the text, or relationships among the ideas in the original text. How can you link them logically so that you can tell very clear cause and effect, concessive like buts or addition and that kind of relationships. Okay, and as I said in the previous slides, you also need to summarize the author's discussion as well. Okay, the author's overall stance. This part is very important because in my previous classes, my previous students would include their own stance when they summarize the original text. Don't do that. Okay, so only include the author's stance, not yours. Right, so this slide seems to be a repeat of what I've just said in the previous slides. But here I'm talking about how you are going to write your summary essay. So I've given you two examples of how you can summarize it, an original text, a long text. So the original article by Sarah Hagi was 1,119 words long. And you can see the resulting summary text. We've got a longer version and a shorter version. And a shorter version is roughly 300 words. Okay, 3 paragraphs. And you can actually expand the summary essay into 5 paragraphs based on how many points you can find in the original article. So if you've got 6 points, of course, you may want to have more paragraphs, or you may want to summarize, or you want to further group ideas into bigger categories. But basically, when you write your introduction, you have to clearly talk about or introduce what the article is about and preview the key points the author has raised in the article. Okay, and in the middle, you've got body paragraphs, maybe 1 paragraph or 3 paragraphs like the sample text. So the body paragraphs would include brief elaborations on the key points. So you summarize the key ideas from the original text, but remember, do not add examples or your personal interpretations. Okay? Because this summary is not about you. It's not about what you think, but about what the author thinks. Okay? And the conclusion would be, again, summarizing the author's points, not yours, as well as her or his judgment and evaluation of the case. Remember, not yours. And you can find actually in the conclusion of the summary text is basically a paraphrase of the original article's conclusion, which is just 1 paragraph. And you can find it's only a reporting, a recap of the original author's ideas. I did not include any of my opinions regarding cancel culture, for example, in the summary text. And then we'll zoom in to look at a summary paragraph. I mean, particularly the body paragraphs. Of course, do remember to follow the introduction, body, conclusion structure even inside the paragraph. Okay, so the pattern basically repeats. At the essay level, you've got an introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion, and same goes for a well-written paragraph. The topic sentence actually works just like the introduction, and you are using that topic sentence or later on we'll call that a paragraph opener, to forecast or to preview the main argument the author puts forward. And that very argument you are going to focus on in that very paragraph. And then, in the middle of the paragraph, you have the elaborating sentences for summarizing similar ideas that are relevant to the current argument in more general terms. Because when you've grouped some of the specific cases or examples from the original text, you need to find simpler terms to summarize these specific cases. Okay, so this means no specific incidents, events, or persons would need to be mentioned in the paragraph. And when you read Haggie's text, you've got a lot of people like Louis C.K., Harry Weinstein, and who else? Mark Halperin, etc., etc. They are all famous people. So you can summarize them in a word called celebrities. Right? So for concluding sentence, you are relating the content in the elaborating sentence to the topic sentence. And again, you do not need to add extra commentaries. Okay? So there is nothing about you, nothing about your points of view in the summary paragraph or the summary essay as a whole. Moving on to the next part, and we are looking into the details of a summary text in terms of language features, in terms of grammatical features. So I'm sure you're not unfamiliar with this feature called nouns, and especially in advanced writing, we don't just have like single or two-word nouns. We often have long, complex noun groups. And in these noun groups, we'll have some kinds of nouns called shell nouns, providing some general ideas about a topic, or maybe you use these shell nouns to talk about your own text. So I've got some examples in this slide, such as perspective, point, argument, view, or when you mention your own text, you can say essay, article, etc. And we've got another phenomenon, language phenomenon called nominalization. Well, it's not exclusive in academic writing, written text, but we use this quite a lot because we use nominalization for condensing ideas. For example, when we talk about, here I give away some ideas about cancel culture. Okay, you would say fans withdraw their support for the celebrities. But in order to make this sentence or this clause into a noun, you will have to change the verb withdraw into a noun withdrawal. And the rest of the sentence would form parts of this long noun group. So the resulting noun would be the withdrawal of support for the celebrities. Note that this whole chunk of words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 words are one noun. Okay, so I guess this divides your understanding about nouns, right? So in the past we have Peter, Paul, and Mary, and Erik as nouns, or transportation, globalization, and so on and so forth. Bus, taxi, your lunch, and so on and so forth as nouns. But now you have even longer nouns. And in the coming weeks, we will cover the grammatical ideas about shell nouns and nominalization. Of course, we don't just care about nouns. Although the nerdy world always loves nouns, making theories, making terms using nouns. but we also need other grammatical components to complete our sentences. So that's why we also look at verbs. Just like what we have done last week, in summary writing, we use quite a lot of different kinds of verbs, mainly purpose verbs that show the author's purposes and tone. For example, aside from say, you can use argue, you can use assert, you can use claim or insist, okay, to show the author's different emotions or even stance. Or you can use illustrate, propose, not purpose, or show. Okay, and then you will also use what I call defining verbs to, of course, define key terms. So we don't just use define. Okay, we can also use refer to, we can use mean, or the simplest verbs in the English language is. Okay, what we call the linking verb. Of course, as a summary text, you will have to mention the author. So some of the important language features characterizing summary text would of course be citation. Okay, you have to address authors by their last names. So you have to know, you must know what last names mean. Okay, so last names will be your surname. So for example, my surname is Zheng, so you have to mention them formally using their last names. And in the article that you have written, so you have read, the author's name is called Sarah Hagi, with her last name Hagi. So some of my students in the past would call her Sarah, too close, too intimate, which is not the formal written style for your essays. So I've also got the example here, Hagi, with the year following the surname, and the year of publications would be put in brackets. Okay, so at the paragraph level, you may want to use some text markers for separating arguments or separating points. For example, if your paragraph has got 3 points, you may want to use first, second. And I might have told you last week, we don't usually use these markers to open our paragraphs. So you don't say firstly to begin your first body paragraph. Or in the middle of the paragraph, you would want to change your stance or your position. You would like to say but the more formal choice can be however, nevertheless, on the contrary, by contrast. Okay? Or if you want to say results or consequences, instead of saying so, you may say therefore, you may say as a result, or consequently. Okay? These are the connectives that you can use to make your text flow more clearly, to help your reader understand the logical relationships among sentences. Okay? And I've also included 2 examples for wrapping up your essay, of course, your favorite, to conclude or in conclusion. Sometimes you would need it, but in most cases, when you have a clear heading for longer essays, let's say you have a heading called conclusion, you don't have to start your concluding paragraph with in conclusion anymore. So after talking about the structural features as well as the specific language features of a summary essay, I think it would be good that we start some discussions on our themes in the coming weeks, which will center around a social phenomenon called cancel culture. Okay, so the purpose of having a theme for our discussion over the weeks is to help you build your vocabulary specific for the task that you are going to write in week 7, so that you can build your vocabulary, you can build some of the key phrases or some of common expressions that you would use for discussing, arguing, or summarizing cancel culture. And I think it's possible that we will change our theme after our first assignment. But let's keep this concept for now. It's good to look into this phenomenon because it involves quite a few different concepts. For example, racism, sexism, misogyny, social media, and peer pressure, and perhaps some of your favorite, conformity. Okay, again, I don't know a lot about social studies or social sciences, but as a linguist, I will have to be sensitive to social issues around me. So, of course, as a media phenomenon, cancel culture would be a very interesting topic to look into. Okay, so let's move on. Here are a bit of instructions for you to let you get ready before the class. And if you are the students who will attend the face-to-face class, we've got around 12 to 15 classmates in the room, so very likely we'll have to break into 4 to 5 groups. And for those who are attending lessons online, as I'm using Zoom, it will be very easy for me to break you into like small groups using breakout rooms. So you're going to work in groups for the themed discussion, which will be the part 1 of your activity sheet. Okay, so you may want to have some preparation beforehand, do some internet search, or you may want to do it in the class, because I'll give you sufficient time to chat with your friends, or maybe we can discuss, you and me, together, to call on your experience and discuss some internet research. And then after a certain time, let's say 20 minutes, ask each of you, each group, to reflect on your ideas and present your ideas in the class verbally. This means some of you who are online will have to turn on your microphones and report on what you have written in your activity sheet. Alongside building your awareness and basic knowledge about the phenomenon, the topic, as well as the key terms for describing the phenomenon that we are going to talk about, we then move on to some reading task by comparing the original text and summarized text. Okay, again, you may want to work as groups so that some of you can read the original text, some of you can read the summarized text. So go over the text. I've given them to you on Moodle, and you would want to look up the words you don't understand before the class. Don't check the dictionary in the class. It takes too much time. Okay, so as you are listening to this PowerPoint file, quickly go over the 3 articles having to do with Haggie's article and look up the words you don't understand. And then apply the code criteria, content, organization, logic, and discussion for comparing Haggie's article and the summary text. And then I would like to know from you the strategies you can use to make summary text shorter than the original text, because you must say the summary texts are shorter than the original text, but how? How did you do it? How can you do it? Okay, and the key would be point out the three main things you should summarize from the source text. So I've given you some hints in the previous slides. You can go back up and check it. So up till this point, this is what we've got for Monday. And what do we expect on Thursday? Well, as usual, we've got something to do. The first thing would be we look into paragraphs to look into the structure of a summary paragraph. And then we will focus on the opening sentences, the topic sentence, or what I call paragraph openers for a paragraph. So I've given you another text by Gay Bird. Okay, I guess he or she is a Redditor, someone who is active on Reddit, and she wrote an essay about cancel culture, and we are going to practice how you can revise your essay by writing a more punchy topic sentence or paragraph opener. Okay, for whatever kind of text that you are writing, maybe an argument, maybe a discussion, maybe an explanation, maybe a long dissertation like my PhD thesis, we write paragraphs in pretty much the same way. And this kind of paragraph structure, the three-part structure, is called a Schaffer paragraph, named after the lady called Jane Schaffer. So we can see a paragraph as a fish, or a shrimp if you like. Anything with a head and a tail would do. So the head would be the opener introducing the focus of the paragraph. So you need the head to drive the content, the focus of the whole paragraph, just like the fish head. Okay? And the first section, of the first part of the body paragraph after the topic sentence will be for explaining any key terms or technical ideas that you may want to illustrate or elucidate, okay, in this sentence. Okay? And the second section would be illustrating what you've just said, or maybe you add examples, you add concrete details. But in the case of writing summary paragraphs, remember you don't need specific people, specific cases, or specific incidents. You just need to summarize the key points, raise the main arguments, and the explanation of these arguments will be just fine. And the third section of the body paragraph would be a commentary. So based on the content in body 1 and 2, summarize the author's point of view. So in the original text, you may find some author's view regarding the key points, the key arguments related to this paragraph. Okay, and then for the tail, the concluding sentence is for wrapping up the paragraph by linking the head and the bodies. So you are not going to copy and paste what you have in the head, right? Because head and tail are supposed to be two different things. You need to at least paraphrase what you've got in the head to be put in the concluding sentence. In the following slides, I will illustrate an example summary paragraph that I've extracted from a student's writing. Okay, so he wrote a topic about cancel culture. He summarized the ideas from Haggie's text. So the first part I have highlighted would be the paragraph opener, and it says one argument concerns the power of the term cancel culture amongst the men of significance in society. So here, this paragraph opener serves to preview what's going on in this paragraph. So it focuses on how the term cancel culture would be related to famous people in society. Okay, with the abuse or use of power, for example. So the second sentence after the topic sentence would be a brief explanation of what the topic sentence means. So it says, although some powerful men have been toppled from the seats of power, they have hardly been touched or cancelled at all. Okay, so in this sentence, it basically explains what it means by the power of the term cancel culture amongst the men of significance. It means the powerful people are not affected by anything related to cancel culture. And then this sentence, despite being called out for their questionable actions and misdemeanors they caused, they are still walking around as if nothing has happened. I don't think this is bad at all. This is simply restating sentence 2, the previous sentence. Perhaps the writer was trying to make the meaning in the second sentence even clearer, trying to rephrasing it. But come to think of it, I would find it's a little bit too much, it's repeating. But since it's written pretty well, so I didn't deduct any marks at all, after all. But here you can basically add some more ideas to make the previous sentence even clearer. And as you read this sentence, you may find that the writer starts his first layer of wrapping up by giving a commentary based on the meaning in the previous sentences, especially sentence 2 and 3. It reads, this shows that the term cancel culture has little power over these type of people in society. I'll stop here at the moment. So it's the previous two sentences talks about the powerful men were not affected by cancel culture at all. And this sentence gives a wrap up. Cancel culture has little power. Okay, moving on. Moreover, since they are men of power, they are still supported despite all the accusations against them. And you can see from the original text that although many famous men being accused of sexual misconduct or sexist slurs in their speeches, they've still got fans supporting them, defending them, and so on. So this sentence basically uses the author's ideas or points of view to give a further commentary on the previous sentences. Right, here comes the last sentence of the paragraph. It's read, despite all criticisms that have been thrown at these men, they are still continued to be defended by their loyal fan base and supporters that disregard the accusations made against their leader. Okay, so throughout the paragraph, you see a few instances of despite. It's a little bit repetitive, but it's used okay, correctly. So I let him pass, I let him go, cutting him some slacks. But basically, this concluding sentence served to summarize all the things that the writer has summarized in the previous parts of the paragraph. So it means the fans are still defending them, these famous men, no matter what. Okay, and you may also see some grammatical hiccups. For example, we don't have to use passive voice for continue. So we can say they still continue to be defended. Okay, But so far this paragraph is very well written in terms of structure, in terms of coherence, because the same paragraph talks about one coherent topic, one particular point throughout. And here comes our punch, and the most important part that will need us to do some work. Understanding paragraph openers, the language structure of writing an effective paragraph opener. Well, I'm sure there are a million ways to write effective, appealing, compelling paragraph openers, or what you call topic sentence, or what we can call higher level themes. So we'll talk about the term theme later on. So here we are. But let's manage the basic forms, right? The basic forms would be something like this. For example, one argument concerns the power of the term cancel culture amongst the men of significance in society. So to start the sentence, you can use the shall noun, the general noun called argument. Okay, this noun actually connects with the purpose of the essay, something that you have already stated at the beginning of the summary text, summarizing the purpose of Sarah Haggey's text, which is to argue. Okay, remember she gave three arguments, and you can start your sentence by saying one argument, and then after the verb you have another long noun phrase, the power of the term cancel culture amongst the men of significance in society, which is the topic to be elaborated in the paragraph. And then between the two nouns you have the linking verb. Okay, so it may be the verb to be is, am, are. Okay, and these verbs will be used to link your purpose and the topic. So that means your shall noun is given meaning by introducing what you are going to explain in this very paragraph. So this is one way you can open your paragraph. Okay, a very straightforward way. And version 2 will actually be the two nouns swapping the positions. So it reads, the power of the term cancel culture amongst the men of significance in society is Haggey's main argument. So I made some change in the object noun. So originally it would be one argument or the main argument. But it's not your argument, it's not my argument, but the original author's argument. So I made it even clearer. It's the most important, so I will put this argument in the first body paragraph. Okay, I would say actually the first version would be more common. You may want to have a very general opening, one argument, another argument, the final argument, something like that. But this is also a way, or I would say an alternative way, because of the linking verb is. So you can actually switch the position between the topic focus and the shall noun, so that you can let your readers know very early at the beginning of the paragraph opener that you are going to talk about this focus. Okay, so aside from all the purpose verbs that you have learned so far, so I have introduced to you 25 purpose verbs on IG. But I would say one of the most useful verb in academic writing would be verb to be, because you use this to link ideas together. Okay, very useful verb. And from now on, as you start analyzing expert texts, for example, when you're reading journal articles, when you really read journal articles, you will find that actually they don't expect us to write very complex sentences. They actually favor simpler sentence structure for conciseness and also for easy reading. Okay, so again, as you see in this example, let me read it out for you again. The power of the term cancel culture amongst the men of significance in society is Haggie's main argument. And as you see, the position of the main verb is placed quite late in the sentence. You will find that actually it's not the sentence structure that is complex. And all you find here is just a noun followed by a verb and then another noun. Haggie's main argument. So what's complex would be the nouns. Okay, so the power of the term cancel culture amongst the men of significance in society. More than 10 words in one noun group. Because you start packing meanings in a noun phrase. So the more able, the more capable you are of packing meanings in a noun, actually the more able you are to express complex ideas. Okay, weird, right? But this is how academic writing or the nerdy people works. Okay, but of course, I'm not saying that you must do nominalization or long noun groups all the time in every single sentence. This is not possible. Later on, when we learn how to structure paragraphs bit by bit, you know the rhythm, how you are, when you are using more noun phrases, when you are more specific and talk about examples in more casual, less formal structures. Okay, so and you will find the favored sentence structure is just noun, verb, noun, not those with layers of relative clauses. As some of you may say, in the past when you were writing for DSE or for your English lessons in secondary schools, you would want to use sentence varieties, or so we call, the English teachers would call sentence variety. We use relative clauses, a lot of which, a lot of that, in order to impress your teachers. This is not something that you should do in academic writing. Okay, do it somewhere else. Do it when you are writing creative writing. Do it when you are writing songs, writing fiction, but never in academic writing. All we want is simple, fast, effective, efficient. Okay, so we will keep learning how to do it. Well, I think I have explained quite a lot. So fortunately, these slides aren't explained in details during the class so that you can have more time chatting, discussing, interacting with me. Okay, so after this lesson, what we're expecting in week 3 will be digging deeper into the language of summary writing. So we've just mentioned shell nouns. So we will talk about the functions of shell nouns. For example, introducing and summarizing ideas. And of course, it serves a very, very important function for cohesion, for organizing text. Okay? And of course, we will do some work together in the second class to summarize a few texts into one sentence. You will need this skill. For example, when you are reading 3 to 5 journal articles for your term paper, and you find that they all have similar ideas about a phenomenon or a key term, or maybe they have the same point of view regarding an event, for example. So you need some ways to summarize all these ideas into perhaps 1 or 2 sentences. Okay, so please do look forward to it, and of course, I'll see you on Monday first, but always look forward to what you are going to learn. Okay, so take care.